guys. This is Ken with Drag or Die. We're back. We have two-time Dig or Die No Prep champion Bobby Parks here, and we're going to sit down and ask him a few questions about how he got started, his racing program, and learn a little more about him. So, Bobby, where are you from, and how'd you get started in racing?
Maryland, and my hometown track is 75 and 80. And I went there, I think, for the first time when I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. And my dad brought me, and man, it was weird. It was just, I knew that was what I was supposed to do. So from that point on, it was all about cars. Before then, it was Matchbox cars. And
turned into expensive hobby.
Yep, and then from that point on, I knew I was always going to be poor and frustrated, and a racer was born.
Yeah. So it was then you were addicted. So
yep.
So what did you start out racing? Did you bracket race? I mean, I knew 75 and 80 had a lot of like Friday night 9-inch nightmares, 10-5 class. Like, what did you start heads up racing, or did you do bracket, or?
So actually, I started street racing, and not just like the occasional catch somebody at a light deal, but like we did like legit street racing every weekend. We'd meet up at the movie theater in Frederick, and we would all meet up there, and we'd all go to Lily Ponds, and we would race there every freaking weekend. And back then, you could race all night long. No cops would come. I mean, 6 hours at a time. Just race all night until you either blew your shit up or like just got tired of doing it. And we pretty much did. We raced so much out there on that bridge that we had raced each other so many times it almost got old. And then that's when we started traveling and going to 70 and
some different street spots.
Yeah, back then New Carrollton Metro Station was huge. So I mean, they had like news broadcasters out there and helicopters flying in, and they were like opening the fire hydrants to flood the streets to get us out of there.
That's crazy.
And eventually they installed speed bumps, and then even then people were going down there and digging them up with shovels, and they would have to go back and reinstall the speed bumps. But it was street stuff for a while. I was actually intimidated of the track. I didn't go to the track until I had already been street racing for about a year or two. And then finally I did. I went to 75 and 80. I did horribly.
Yeah.
I went there and did horribly the first time out. I had a 6-speed 99 Z28. That was the first car I bought and had to have it. And it wasn't so much that I just sucked at driving, but I had some... back then, I think Track Auto was still open.
Yeah, I remember Track
Auto. A lot of the younger guys don't know about Track Auto. But they had these, like, Ricer pedal covers.
Yeah.
And they had, like, these 2-inch long bolts sticking out of the back. And it kept me from being able to put the pedal to the floor. So once I figured that out, then, I ran normal times for it, like low 13s. And just kept stepping my game up from there. But I got lucky with the first car being an LS based car. Not many people buy an LS car for their first car, especially back then.
Yeah, now you have all the experience of it.
Yeah.
And like I met you, I think at World Cup, so you were racing on that kind of level when the car was when the Black Nasty come about. How did it come about? What made you build that first Fox body, the nitrous combo?
So the Camaro, I had that for like 8 or 9 years, and then I met my ex-wife, and she wanted a house.
Yeah.
I spend all my money on race car stuff, so I never have any money.
Yeah.
So I actually sold my race car to buy the house.
Oh, okay.
So I was out of racing for like a year or two. We ended up having a couple kids, and as soon as my first daughter was born, I just couldn't take it anymore. I had been out of racing for about 3 years, and I got into rock crawling to fill the gap. Rock crawling was fun for me, so I did that for a few years. But I couldn't be out of racing. Racing was just, it was in me. I couldn't stay out of it any longer. I actually traded my rock crawler that I had at the time for the rolling chassis of the original Black Nasty Mustang.
Oh, okay.
So I got that, and I had a C6 Vet also at the time, and it had a 402 LS2 based motor, and I took the motor out of the Vet, believe it or not, put a stock motor in the Vet, sold it, and then took the stroker motor out of the Vet, dropped it right in the Mustang, went right out racing. And that thing just outperformed every imaginable goal that I had set for it. It just went faster than I thought it would. And the very first heads-up race that I ever entered in my life was World Cup 2012. I had entered many races before, but it was usually like, and I'm not big on bracket racing, but I did the bracket racing thing here and there.
Yeah.
I raced motorcycles for 4 or 5 years. Did the bracket thing with motorcycles and broke a couple records back then. And World Cup 2012, I looked at the rule book and I said, we kind of fit this class. I was like, let's just see what we can do. And we ended up winning the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
That's a big feat. You know, like in our area, of course, coming from Maryland, that's a big race everybody goes to. And, you know, of course, I seen, you know, leading up to that, you know, you were racing still a little bit on the street with that car. You know, I know you drug a GTR with that thing on.
Quite a few GTRs.
Yeah, so, you know, that was the first time I met you now. So after all that, what made the transition? I know you kind of really got serious with the car. You were trying to go ultra racing, which, you know, it's a lot of money. I know that. So
yeah. So after the World Cup win, I decided Ultra Street would probably be a fit for me. And then they started doing the crossover classes for World Cup. So I was like,
yeah.
Perfect. Like, this is exactly what I need to do. And I set the whole car up for radial stuff. I broke the stock block nitrous LS record the very next year with that same combo.
Yeah.
And then Ultra Street was about where I was. I was like, you know, I guess you could say I was considered fast for what my car was running. Back then, guys were going like 490s, I think was the record. And I was going 5.0. So I was like, hell yeah, we can do this. The only problem is the area that I lived, like, all the baddest dudes are all around here. So I had to compete with the best of the best.
Yeah.
And it was tough. Just making it to the races was tough. Not so much having to lean on a combination that is just on the ragged edge all the time. And I wasn't really breaking a whole lot of stuff. Matter of fact, that same combination was together for 3 years, and then eventually I sold it. And then to build something bigger and better, that's when I finally went turbo.
Yeah.
But 3 years with that combination, and I hadn't won a single Ultra Street race. I could not make it to any of the Georgia races. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of chasing my tail and kind of losing interest, because if I can't win in something, then what's the point? You know, I'm not the class filler type. I don't want to do it. Yeah. So I'm willing to step down if that's what it takes. The problem is Ultra Street was like, that's it. You know, there's no more lower radial class, really.
Yeah. And
there was one other one, but my car, because it had a tube front end back then, didn't fit their class rules. So I wasn't allowed in that. That was a real street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I just said, screw it. Then let's just go fast. Like, let's just have fun. Go fast. Let's see how fast we can go. And that's when I built that 427 methanol combination with the single 98. And that thing was definitely fast. Mm-hmm. And then that's when we started doing the grudge thing.
Yeah. Because see, Ultra, it's that, you know, even though, you know, like you said, a lot of people in the area done it, but a lot of them have backers too. I mean, yeah, you weren't tearing up stuff all the time, but, you know, you go to Georgia and you blow transmission. I mean, who's got a $7,500 Power Glide? They can, you know, bring an extra one with you. I mean, people don't understand that class. And Real Street, like in our area, it got out of hand for the normal guys.
Yes.
That's where I thought it kind of stemmed from. But, you know, the normal guys, I mean, yeah, you were going fast on it, but a lot of them guys have big companies behind them. You know, they got stackers, you know,
And we thought it was bad back then. Now they've picked up a half second from where they're at. Yeah. Now it's just, it's not obtainable for your average Joe. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I would even consider myself average Joe. I mean, I'm poor compared to these guys, but at the same time, I'm still what I would consider at a slightly higher level than probably some of them are. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense for anybody that's not making a ton of expendable income to get into that type of racing at all. Yeah. Which is hence the move to no prep.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Of course, like you said, you set the car up to do some grudge racing, big motor, big turbo, methanol. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was pretty wild. So, I remember you bringing in to trying to transfer over to no prep. How did that go?
Well, they had that first airport race, and me and a handful of buddies have been talking about setting up like a makeshift drag strip at airport for years. I mean, probably 10, 15 years we've been talking about it mm-hmm. because we're doing the whole street race thing. And we just wanted to street race somewhere where we wouldn't get in trouble or where we wouldn't hit trees or pedestrians and kill other people and ourselves. So the airport thing came up, and luckily, all them guys that originally put it together, I'm still to this day thankful that they did it, because I would have never made it anywhere near as far as I did if it wasn't for that original airport setup that we got to go race on before it became a big thing, Yeah. And I brought my grudge car down there. I had just spent a bunch of money on some Menser valve radial shocks and struts, and I was like, let's just take the car down there and see if it goes straight. And as soon as I showed up, I was like, this is kind of a joke. Like, this is stupid. The asphalt is horrible. I haven't seen one person go down without spinning at that time. And I was just kind of like, this is stupid. But we had nothing better to do. It was December.
Oh, yeah.
So what else are we going to do? We had 2-3 months before the tracks opened back up. So we're like, screw it. Let's just go play around and see what happens. Took it out, went down, tried to go down, just on like gate pressure, blew the tires off the whole way down. It didn't even try. So I just brought it back, and I was like, let's put it in the trailer, let's go home. And my guys were like, why? What else are we going to do today? And I'm like, good point, but what are we going to do here? And they're like, I don't know, make it work. I'm like, all right, well, get everything we have in the trailer and throw it in the back of the car.
Put some weight in.
Yep, so we had
that car was pretty light, right?
Oh, yeah, it was real light.
At that point.
So we had the toolbox in there. We had literally like a box of flyers that we got from somebody. If it wasn't strapped down, it was in the back of my car. We wrapped it in a blanket, ratchet strapped it to the rear bars in the cage.
Yeah.
And then I put a little bit of a timing ramp in it, changed the suspension a little bit, gave it a little more travel, did some things with the shocks, and then the very next pass we went A to B.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was kind of fun. I was like, it's slow as hell, but it was fun.
Yeah.
We beat the guy next to us. That's what racing's all about. Doesn't matter really how fast you're going. It's who can go down what faster than the next guy. So and that was just like testing. And then they were like, well, we're doing a cash days tonight.
Yeah.
So the first official cash days. And we were like, screw it, let's enter. And we ended up tying, I think the guy's name was Chris. And in all honesty, we brought a machine gun to a knife fight. And we really had every advantage, or at least we thought we did.
Yeah.
Truth be told, that kind of power makes it a lot harder actually to get down those surfaces, which took me like a year and a half, 2 years to figure that out.
Yeah,
I'm a little slow in the head. Yeah. So I'm thinking we have the advantage over these guys, but we really didn't. And the guy that we went to the finals with had like a 302
little
Mustang.
Yeah,
it was like nothing special. And honestly, he kind of, looking back, he kind of kicked our ass in the sense that we had every advantage on that dude.
Yeah.
And he was out in front of me. To be honest, he was out in front of me, and we were just reeling him back in by the finish line. I had all day long, A to B, A to B, and then on that pass, I happen to blow the tires off, get out of shape, get back on it, gather it up in time, and then we don't have anybody at the finish line to tell us who won. Yeah. So we ended up splitting it, which if I could turn back time, I would have just he really did deserve it. Yeah. But that's pretty much what got me hooked on the no prep. I was like, wow, you don't have to run low fours at a sticky racetrack on a radial to have fun, as long as you can compete. And then what made it way better is, one, we're not breaking our stuff up. That's huge. Just to be able to take your car, race it all day long, and then have a running car back in the trailer at the end of the day.
It's not running on full tilt all the time.
Exactly. And then, so our parts last longer. The car itself doesn't require as much work. Mm-hmm. And then the crazy thing is, the money that I split with this guy was like half of the entire amount of money that I won for World Cup. Yeah. And that was like a little homegrown, nobody knew anybody type race. And before we knew it, we had races for $5 and $10 and $15 and $20,000. Races that even in the radial world back then were almost unheard of. You had to be radial versus the world level to win that kind of money.
Yeah, to make that kind of money.
And you're doing that with a $500,000 car. Yeah. And you're breaking God knows how much money worth of parts every year. So we're taking these, and granted, my car wasn't super cheap back then, but it definitely wasn't on that level either. But then we started building these cars, like my new car, and that's where the whole idea of that came from. Kevin ended up buying mine, which gave me a little bit of money. I was actually going to get out of it. I do that like every 2 years.
Yeah, and we all try.
Exactly.
Happens.
And I didn't know the severity of my back injury back then, so I had gotten the Pro Mod truck and started down that road. And of course, as soon as I get a tube chassis car, they outlaw tube chassis cars from small tire. And small tire is what I wanted to do. Yeah. But since I had already built it, I entered big tire, did a couple races on big tire, and did pretty damn well with it. But it was the same problems I had in the radial world. More broken parts, more expense, a lot more stuff to figure out, and we were winning less money than the small tire guys. And the very first race I went to the finals with Blake, and the money, the pot was $10,000, which even still right now is a lot of money for big tire.
Oh yes,
but small tire winners got $15,000. Yeah. So I was like, what are we doing? Like, why am I on a big tire spending more money, breaking more stuff, which I did. I broke my transmission so many times. It was annoying, and that was a very expensive transmission. So I told myself, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm going back to small tire, but I'm going to do it stupid simple, stupid cheap. And I kind of had like a gentleman's bet with my friends that I would be competitive. I didn't expect to be as competitive as I ended up being, but I figured I might win a race here and there. And the car really is. It's so stupid simple and so cheap that it doesn't even make sense. Like, where else can you go win $30,000+ in a single race with a car that doesn't even cost $30,000? Yeah, like, that's unheard of. It's never in any form of racing that I know of. Could you ever do that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people can relate to your build because, you know, when they did the rule change at Dig or Die, of course, the no external weight. Don't get me wrong, people's figured that out. You know, you got people like Patches, you know, Charles, you got Turbo John. These guys are constantly pushing, learning new stuff. But, like, you never had any weight hanging outside of the car. You know, honestly, of course, over the years, you know, you learn, I mean, radial suspension setup is make or break. You can go out there and blow the tires off one pass, you're done for the rest of, you know. So, you learn to set up cars and everything that way. But I think people can relate more, you know, to a car like yours. I mean, yeah, everybody complains Fox body's easy, but, I mean, it's a factory 4-link car. You got an LS motor, which everybody's into, and it's not really like a gutted car, you know. I mean, I think what happens is these guys, you got to learn to go slow, and I'm sure you've been through that. Yep. You went from a 4-second car to, you know, a 6-second car, you know, on most of these surfaces, and I think that's what, you know, you've did it all. You went from, trying to compete at Ultra to down to this. Now, since you've raced all these, I mean, is no prep your favorite thing, or?
It is. There are obviously, I love the going fast part about the radial racing, but the fun of it is just killed by the fact that you're constantly hemorrhaging money to do it. And then anytime I get strapped in a car, hurting myself is not really ever on my mind. Hurting the car, however, terrifies me. Because I love racing. It's a passion of mine. And when I'm not doing it, I'm depressed. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I don't know what to do with myself. I hate it. Life seems to be a little bit boring. So I have to have racing. And if my car is broken, especially if I break something expensive, when I broke my car the first time out, when I first did that turbo setup, I was down for almost a year to get that thing back on the road. And that right there just kind of kills the fun. When you're at the track, you're getting ready to let go of that trans brake button, and you're shaking, not because you're scared of the speed, not because you're afraid to get hurt, but because you think, as soon as I let go of this button, my trans is going to blow up, or my motor is going to pop, and then there goes 6 months, and I'm not going to be racing anymore. Dude, that thought of just going home with a broken car depressed killed the whole thing for me. Now, I get these guys that have a bunch of money that can go do it. Good for them. That's awesome. But I've just always been a mechanic. I've never had a really great job or anything that pays a bunch of money. And I became a mechanic in the first place because I wanted to learn how to make my stuff go fast on my own. Because I couldn't afford other people to do it.
Now, since you, of course, a lot of people know you won back-to-back Dig or Die championships. How do you feel? Like, of course, everybody knows, they're like the Super Bowl no prep. They've been awesome races. Like I think you went to the first one over there at 710 when there was 710 and Eric and Zenford and all those guys, Kenson. They do a great job. The race is picking up traction, of course. How do you feel the future of it, though? I mean, you're starting to see some class cars like Manning, X275 world record holder. Do you think they're going to start coming into the no prep world because the payouts are a lot more?
Absolutely. And that's why I've been, and I'm just me, I'm not a promoter, I'm not a rule maker, so what I say only goes so far, but I've been trying to get as many people on board as possible. We need to keep the rules in such a way that we can't allow money to dictate where this class goes. As soon as that happens, as soon as these big dollar guys get into it, because it doesn't make sense. Like the same reason I got into it, why wouldn't they get into it? It just makes sense. They don't have to spend as much money. And once they get it figured out, if you give them the ability to go faster with money, it'll be like shooting fish in a barrel. 90% of these no prep guys, I mean, just go to look at Dig or Die. I mean, there's probably 20 guys there that probably make a pretty good living and they're not hurting for money, and their cars usually show it. But a lot of them guys aren't the ones winning it either. So it's kind of hit or miss. But like I said, if you allow two chassis car, is it a huge advantage? No. But it's an advantage. Same thing with back half cars. When I built my car, I built it in such a way that there is no possibility that they can make a rule to ban me. And that's kind of where I went, because after I built the truck and two chassis were outlawed, I was like, okay, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to build something that they can't outlaw. If they outlaw me, they have to outlaw 90% of the field. So there won't be a race. So I built my car in such a way that I knew they couldn't outlaw me. Stupid simple, yet it still has everything it needs to be competitive, obviously. And I just need, and not just me, I mean, a lot of these guys, we need the rules to stay in such a way that guys with money can't run away with it. Because as soon as you give them that little advantage, that's exactly what's going to happen. So to answer the question, absolutely. These guys are going to keep coming over. And I know at first there was a handful of guys that came over from the radial world that, like me, thought they would be shooting fish in a barrel and then found out the hard way that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to take a radial car straight off the track and go to a no prep and make adjustments, and it's going to.
They pretty much have to change the whole car, really.
Yep. The first thing right off the break that we learned was having all that extra power not only didn't help, it wasn't an advantage. It might have scared people and made them screw up on the line.
Yeah.
But outside of that, once you know that all that extra power does nothing, it just makes it harder for you to get the tune right, then why have it? Why have a $40,000 motor when you can have a $5,000 motor?
Yeah.
You know, I can blow mine up on the weekend and be back out racing the next weekend. Yeah. And these guys are bringing, you know, $150,000, $250,000 cars to run 5s and 6s. It just doesn't make sense. But every little bit that you give them in the rules, they're going to eventually figure it out. These guys are figuring it out. The average no prep racer has come a long way in the last 2-3 years. When we first started at that airport, we thought we were doing something. We were, I mean, if we took what we were doing back then and just raced your average no prep racer today, we would lose almost every race.
Oh yeah, I think everybody thinks, you know, everybody thinks you're fast until you go out of town.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like, that's probably my favorite thing about no prep. Yes, the money that you can win versus the amount of money invested is a huge deal. That's why so many people are coming over. But for me personally, I just love to be able to be competitive. And since I can't afford to do, you know, if I had all the money in the world, I'd be top fuel racing. I want to be the fastest at whatever I'm doing, but I stay in my lane, and this is what I can afford. So that's what I'm doing. And it's cool that you got to figure out how to get down the same surface as the next guy and just be faster than him at it with what you have.
Yeah.
And being able to do it with such a simple car makes it all the better. Like a lot of these guys with these really simple combinations that are doing really well. I mean, look at Bill and Billy. Yeah. That truck. I mean, the way that they tune that thing.
It shouldn't do what it does.
Yeah, I told them, I was like, I don't know how you guys are doing it. And, you know, when I'm sure now that they have the Falcon, they're probably looking at all the data now and they're like, man, they're realizing what they left on the table with the truck.
Well, yeah.
And now their whole thing is going to step up.
Yeah, it's spinning in their heads. Of course, you know, Bill's got he's got the blow-through carburetor thing, and a lot of people don't understand that blow-through carburetor is not easy to tune.
No.
He
can have it.
And now, they're probably realizing, even if they don't want to go EFI, there's data, you know, the grid, you know, you can run Holley, Fuel Tech, just for the ignition side, or data, you know, and it's pretty wild to see how mild that S10 is, you know, even chassis-wise.
Yeah.
With Bolden, Viking struts, and Caltrax, you know, as fast as it's been. And with now that they have, you know, the Falcon up there, you know, they're learning a lot more, and you know that's really what separates a lot of these guys is it's a tuner's game. If you can tune and you can learn different things, you know, it's easy to pay somebody to do something, but you're not always going to have somebody. Which there's nothing wrong with that either. You know, we would love to be able to do that, but I think with this stuff, the average guy can still do it. I mean, most of these guys, like you said, you blow up a motor, you go get a $5,000. You know, you put $5,000 in an LS motor, you're gonna have a competitive car. You know, I mean, and like you said, the no prep's come a long way. People are, and it's just all over the area. Look at Dig or Die. Like, look how the changes everybody's making. They're getting faster. You know, it's. You know, you won it 2 times in a row. You know, you had some trouble at the last one, you know, with the converter and stuff like that. But people are starting to get quicker. You know, it went from smoking the tires all the way down to being able to control it. And I think that's what makes it exciting. It's still, you know, like I like watching radial racing, but it's nothing like no prep.
No, it's not.
Like, you know,
and the atmosphere is completely different. If you've never been to Dig or Die, if you've never been to back of the track at Darlington, these types of races, you just don't know.
Oh,
like
yeah.
when it's like I said before, it's like a Mad Max style racing. It's freaking awesome, and yeah, a lot of guys make fun of the guys that don't come with front ends and all that, but
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of it's kind of the whole feel to it. We're going out there with so much less than what these guys have in these radial cars, and I guarantee you these guys are jealous as can be. They can lie all they want, but they're out there spending a ton of money to win next to nothing. I mean, let's face it, even if they won a lot of their races, they're still in the hole a ton just on keeping up with these combinations. I mean, and that's just Ultra Street. X275 now, 14s, like how crazy is that?
Yeah.
The money, I don't even know how they do it, much less, the money part. Like, you could give me all the money in the world, and I guarantee you I couldn't put together a car that'll run 4.1 with that rule set. It's just mind-boggling what these guys are doing.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of people on your team. You got to.
But what's awesome
to that racing.
These guys, I mean, the pro line guys, we all know, we've seen them out in a few races now, and just their name alone, everybody's like, oh man, like, these guys are out here.
You see the red hat mafia,
you're like, oh man, we're done. There's no way we're going to be able to beat these guys. And then they realize, and we realize alike, like, it's not as easy as it looks.
No,
you can be the baddest in the world in your respective class, and then come over to this no prep stuff that. Let's face it, just a year ago, not even 2 years ago, just a year ago, everybody's making fun of us. They're like, why would I build a race car to go slow? Well, you won't understand until you do it. When you think that you know something about racing, you think you know it all, which I did too. I thought, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to kill these guys. And then you show up and you got guys that, like, I mean, they have no business lining up next to you, or at least you think that.
Yeah.
And then they beat you, and you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, how did that guy beat me? And then now it's just all figuring this stuff out. And that's by far my favorite part. Just, you don't have to spend all the money in the world. You can have all the fun, and you can win enough money to continue doing it. That's the biggest part. Like, if you don't break, and you just win one or two races, shit, like dig or die. I mean, that one race will fund my whole racing operation for 2 seasons minimum. Maybe more, maybe 3 or 4, just depends if I break.
Yeah.
That poor little motor I got in my car now is going strong. I probably got 300 passes on that thing.
Wow.
And the bottom end was used when I bought it.
Yeah.
So
and there's a lot of and the pots are getting bigger, the car counts are getting bigger. I mean, Corey, Spool Media, he does that. He's going to get ready to do that cash out down there at Darlington. Darlington's another, wild surface. Like I went to the thaw out. It was a great time. I couldn't make that, that second one he had this year. But, like I something about the Carolinas too. I went down to Turbo John's race. It was the first no prep race I've been to besides Dig or Die. I went to the 710 Dig or Die, met Eric and all them guys in that December. So I met Turbo John, and he's like, hey, I'm having a race at Fayetteville. It was front of the track, no prep, but he didn't have a huge turnout. It was still cold, but all those people down that area, most of them are just down to earth, good people, and it's like a reunion when we all get together. You have the people like Bill and Billy, you have them, you have, the people from North Carolina, you have people from Florida, Georgia, all over the place. It's just like a whole, I don't know, it's hard to explain. If you haven't been to Dig or Die or, the Thaw Out, one of those kind of races, you need to get to the Carolinas. And there's so much people's trying to do down there. Like, honestly, it'd be smart to move down there for us because they're racing all during the week,
It's literally like it's like a giant street race. It's just all of your buddies getting together. Because it was maybe 1-2 years of no prep racing before we all just kind of got to know each other. It's not like radial stuff where we go to a track. It's a sanctioned event. Everything is, everybody's kind of separated. I mean, I've been racing with some guys for 10, 15 years that I've never really talked to in the radio world.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started no prep racing, been to like 5 events down south, and I feel like I know everybody down there. Like every time we go, It's like a whole new family of racers. It's the best time I've ever had in racing.
Yeah.
And I do like going faster, but honestly, I want it to stay slow just so that I can continue to afford doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Dig or Die is a perfect example. Every time we run an event there, it gets a little bit stickier. I would venture to say, and people are probably going to disagree, take one of them like wire wheel deals on the front of a skid steer loader and knock that rubber off there before every race.
Yeah.
Bring it right back to that bare surface all over again and make it tricky for everybody. I get that eventually maybe it might wear down the surface or something like that, stuff that I don't know about track prep, but as long as we keep these events slow, that's why I believe the car count is so big.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you got all these guys that can afford, because let's face it, you need to make, I don't know, I would say, depending on what your car weighs, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300, and you can win these races easy. Like, you don't have to make a ton of power.
Mm-hmm.
So you just put together a car that can get you there and try not to break it. And part of not breaking it is keeping it slow, and that's why all these guys keep coming. Yeah. So if we, like the front, that's perfect example, the front of the track stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think the car counts are ever going to be as big for front of the track stuff as the back of the track stuff. Yeah. And it's just basically because guys know, okay, the front of the track stuff is probably a little bit faster. I'm going to leave that alone. Matter of fact, I try to avoid most of the front of the track stuff.
Yeah.
So back of the track stuff is just going to bring more people because more people are capable of competing. Simple as that.
The front of the track stuff, it's fun to watch and stuff too, but you pretty much got to have a low 5-second car. I mean, there's guys running high 4s on that. You know, they can scrape the track and wash it. I'm not taking anything away from it. You know, it's awesome racing too, but it's harder to get the car count for it because a lot of people can't compete at that level yet. And
the messed up thing is it doesn't take a super expensive combination to do that type of racing.
No.
It's just a little bit more upkeep, a little bit more likely that you're going to break something. So, and then the payouts aren't typically as much.
Yeah.
So why? And then the setup to the car is pretty different. That's one thing a lot of guys don't fully grasp. They'll take a back of the track, no prep car, and then go front of the track. And then go from front of the track back to a back of the track, and they don't do either very well, or they do one very well and the other poorly.
Yeah,
that's just how it goes. It's two different cars, really. You can do it with the same car, but you're going to have to do a converter change. So if you got a bolt together, like I finally got, after 23 years of racing, I finally bought a bolt together.
Shout out to Hughes.
Thanks, Hughes.
Pete's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Pete, and thank Eric Mans for hooking me up on that. That was big. But yeah, before then, I mean, I didn't even have that option. It's like I go to back of the track. If I ever tried to do front of the track, I knew what was going to happen. I was already blowing through a very high percentage at no prep stuff, and I was doing it on purpose. You know, I wanted that slip to help with traction, but the trade-off is once you get to a surface that's just even a fraction stickier, and then that slip starts going to the moon, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and so what do you think about the street stuff? I know you grew up in the streets. Are you pretty much done with that kind of stuff? I know your car would work good in it, but I mean, are you just pretty much done with that aspect of things because of, you know, having kids, that kind of thing? I mean,
kids and sponsors were the two biggest factors with the street thing.
Because the street thing, I know some of the guys in our area that still do it. You know, they give you some stuff about it. But, you know, like I know you've done it for years, and you know, I'm of course your car would probably work great. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I do miss it. It's just I street raced a lot back before. Before I got the sponsors that wouldn't allow me to street race. Yeah. But when I was doing it last, it kind of sucked, I'll be honest. It was, you couldn't find a race. And then if you did find a race, they want everything. Like, give me the move, give me the back tire, give me, give me this, give me that, give me this. And it's like, come on, man, let's just race. I don't even know what your car does. Like, how am I supposed, oh, well, you got this, you got that, you got to sit like me. It was just always an argument to get the race. Then you finally get the race, and then you go down there, and then hopefully you're going down there with somebody that's experienced, so they don't bring a large group of people, because that almost always happens.
Exactly.
You show up at the race spot, and you each tell each other, don't tell anybody. You show up, and there's 100 people there. Come on,
and
man.
It's still like that, yeah. But,
and then the cops come, and then you run from there to another spot, and then before you know it, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Dude, I'm old now. That's a big part of the reason why I don't do it. I'm old.
Yeah.
My back problems. I'm basically a 90-year-old man at this point.
Yeah.
I go to sleep early. I want to wake up early. I don't want to be out till 6 o'clock in the morning, and then dying the next day. Just because I wanted to race one guy one night for what?
Yeah,
$100.
Yeah, the
$500.
The
even
money
if
was
they
probably bigger when you all first started to, like if you did a big grudge run. But I know people ask, like they ask me too. They're like, why didn't Bobby run on the street? And I know a lot of people have different, feelings about it. People like my dad. He has CDLs. There's always the chance, but you've done it. There's a feeling that it's hard to get away from, but I know what you're saying. It's a lot of gimme races and stuff like that now.
And once you've done a big event like Dig or Die, like the Thaw Out, once we got 150 cameras on us the whole time. We got thousands of people physically there watching, people just packing all around your car. And dude, I'll just be honest, street ain't got nothing on that. It really doesn't. It's one thing if you just race in it, that's exciting enough.
Yeah.
But if you've ever actually won an event like that, dude, I've been in a lot of street races. Some, matter of fact, I had one, since you mentioned the GTR, I had a grudge with this guy for like 10 years. This guy did nothing but make fun of me because he makes good money, he has expensive cars, and he bought a GTR, and the GTR was fast, I'll give it to him. But I knew he couldn't beat me, especially not on the street. And I went down there, I showed him, pulled the chute in his face, and don't get me wrong, that was a hell of a feeling. That was amazing.
We'll insert that clip here.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. But that was probably my highest high when it came to street racing, and it can't touch that Dig or Die win. It's got nothing on that.
Yeah. Now, so we'll try to wrap this up some, but what's your favorite event? It doesn't even have to be no prep. What was your favorite event you've ever been to? Even if you didn't win it, what was the best time you had?
Before Dig or Die, I would have said World Cup for sure, but definitely Dig or Die, man.
Yeah,
that's it for me. That's the race.
Yeah.
If you talk to me about small tire no prep, that's the very first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Darlington, in my opinion, is right up there with it. I love Darlington because it's an even worse surface. People talk about Dig or Die. They're like, you don't know unless you've been. And I'm like, have you been to Darlington? And they're like, nah, why? I'm like, it's worse. And they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, I'm telling you, there is a way.
It's crazy. It's like an hour away. And it was laid out like the first time I went there. It's laid out complete. The same people built it. But it's a complete different surface. And I heard they were talking there for this next race in November. They're actually going to move it up, to keep the stars alive.
I love that. Him and I see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. When it comes to the rules, I think he really knows. Corey knows what this no prep stuff is all about. I think he knows where it's going. That is the key. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Keep it slow. If you start making it fast, and 10 years ago, high fives was considered very fast. It didn't matter what kind of car you had.
Oh yeah.
Now, because radial cars are going so damn fast, guys just don't even think about it. But we're on slicks. We're on a complete trash surface. And we got cars that are capable of easily running 7s in a quarter mile with a radial on a prep track that we're putting on a slick on complete trash. And mind you, we're still going 8-second equivalent ETs, So we're not going slow. We're going slower than probably most of us want to go.
Yeah.
But we're still going fast. And I mean, I'm sure some of the radio guys are thinking, like, yeah, we're going a lot faster, but I wouldn't put my car on that trash surface. And then the guys that think, oh, this is no big deal, I'll go do it. Bill Lutz. Yeah. And, you know, that's a big money team. It's not like these guys aren't super successful. It's not like these guys aren't smart. These guys probably forgot more about drag racing than I ever learned.
Yeah.
And they come to these surfaces and it kicks their ass.
They can't even take enough power out of a car like that. Yeah,
exactly.
It's hard.
So that's what makes it so freaking awesome. You can have Stevie Fast Jackson come down himself with his Pro Mod.
Yeah.
And he's going to have a hell of a time, even beating, like, it wouldn't even have to be the top guys. Just regular guys out there would probably run them right the hell over. And I know he wouldn't want to hear that, and I'm sure I'm going to catch a little bit of shit for it. And I'm not saying he wouldn't be able to figure it out with time.
No.
All those guys, if you give them time, they're going to get it figured out. But I'm saying, as we've seen, there has yet to be a single person come in there with a big money team and run anybody over. It hasn't happened.
Yeah, you're right. And I just hope I hope it continues on for a while. You know, like, of course, we love the street stuff, you know, like the no prep stuff's fun. Like, you know, it's hard to explain. You need to get out and get to one of these races. I know a lot of people watch the live feeds and, you know, they can't make it out, but the stuff's popping up everywhere. But if you can get out there and experience it, it's a good time. And so we're gonna wrap this up. What's next event wise? You know, what do you got going on for the end of the year here? And
we got Border Wars coming up next, and then that should be fun. We've been talking about doing these group races for a while now.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So I think that'll probably get a little bit more people involved. Hopefully the car count is good enough that it makes it worthwhile. Dude, I'm looking forward to the same 2 damn races every time.
Yeah.
The next Dig or Die, the next Darlington.
Yeah.
And then if somebody else, Terrace is going to be putting together back of the track stuff at Capitol.
Yeah.
That actually is going to be one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's so close. You know, instead of having to drive 7-8 hours to these races,
exactly,
we're going to be able to drive not too far and be able to do back of the track no prep stuff. So I hope that he makes that happen. And I think that as long as he keeps on it, I think the car count could potentially get up there with the rest of these guys, and it could be huge.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of grudge guys are not real happy about, like, prep and stuff like that, but, you know, grudge racing kind of, it kind of went through a transition, too. You know, it's kind of the same way. Like, it's stiff to death. Like, don't get me wrong, I love, you know, grudge racing's awesome, but, you know, a lot of them, I think if they tried coming over, you know, like, you know, a lot of these guys, 2810 cars, you know, they do a little setup. They're gonna love Capitol back in track, and so it'll be fun.
And once them guys get a taste for it and they see that they can win more money, not have to talk so much trash, like that's another big thing. Like, there's a lot of guys that I know that wanted to get into the grudge scene, but they were so intimidated by the atmosphere. All the people that constantly trash talk. And then like the internet stuff. And I did a little bit of it too. So. I get it. It can be funny, but it gets monotonous. Like, I only have so much time in my day, so I can't be on the internet talking trash, 10 hours out of the day. I got to work on my car. I got to test my car. And you know what? Nothing against the guys that like to talk trash. As long as they keep it to themselves, cool. It is. It's like, it's kind of one of the reasons why some of the guys get into grudge racing, but I guarantee you there's more guys not getting into grudge racing because of that than there are guys getting into it.
A lot of them can't talk the game. You know? Like, they might have a fast car, but it's about that too. But so we're gonna wrap this up. Is there anybody you want to thank? Your team, sponsors?
East Coast Mafia. We've been killing it ever since we kind of started doing our own little thing. Pete and Eric for hooking me up with that Hughes converter right out of the box. That thing has just been working amazing. Chewy's Performance in Mount Airy. That dude has been hooking me up like crazy for the longest time. He's like one of the first guys that believed in me. I mean, he was sponsoring me all the way back 2012 for like World Cup and stuff.
That's awesome.
Just right off the break, just stick with me. My boy Conrad's been hooking me up from Front Royal Ford, getting me stuff that I need for my car. Skinnies, they hooked me up after Darlington. We were using their stuff, and he's been helping me out ever since, which has been huge for me because, man, you don't realize how fast you go through that prep until you start doing this stuff. Exactly. And then you realize, like, wow, man, I'm going through hundreds of dollars of this stuff real fast.
Yeah,
but
and they're good people too.
Yeah, and then Jason Smith, he hooks me up on all my powder coat stuff.
Yeah.
And they get that stuff turned around. Jimmy working for him down there. I hand him stuff, and it's almost like instantaneously I get this stuff back. I don't even have to wait on it. It's like I just hand it to them.
They help out a lot of racers, in the area, and that's awesome. They support what we do, and
Garage Built Racing. He hooks me up a lot too. Like, dude, I didn't realize how much stuff the guy carried. Like, every time I go to order something, he's like, I got it. I'm like, I needed 2 batteries out of nowhere. I had them the next day. I was like,
and especially in these times, that makes a lot of difference.
Hell yeah. And I don't have any major sponsors. None of these guys give me a ton of money or anything, but you add it all up and it helps, man. I'll be honest, without them, I don't think I would have been able to get as far as I did. That's for sure. And then, the whole team thing has helped out a lot too, because I tune more than one car at a time. Yeah. And people don't realize the advantage that there is in that too. You get to see what this car does, how it reacts. You already know what it's done somewhere else, so I get an idea of what I need to do. Yeah. But I actually really like being first off the trailer. As a lot of people know, I've done a lot of off the trailer stuff, and I do very well by guessing the surface. So. It's all of it together, man. It makes all the difference.
And plus with that, with having a team, data, you got one car that goes out or, goes a couple, everybody works together and that definitely helps. You gotta have people, you gotta have a program behind you. You gotta have somebody that helps you line you up, knows what they're doing, you gotta have people backing you, definitely. So. Yeah. But, I appreciate you doing the interview, and we'll see you at Border Wars coming up soon.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely.